Part 5. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 41. In more than 2 years, Yang Zongxiang not only drank and gambled away all the family property he got when he divorced, but also completely lost the family business left by his parents. In desperation, he could only make up for his losses by borrowing usury, but the result was that he got deeper and deeper into trouble. Those loan sharks were not as docile and obedient as Li Feiying, and they had all kinds of torture methods. This forced Yang Zongxiang to think of selling his own daughter to pay off the debt. The owner of the shop that runs the brand of famous wine in front of him is not only the boss behind the loan shark, but also the human trafficker responsible for contacting the buyer. From the time Ceci was taken away by Yang Zongxiang to the time she was finally discovered, the reason why she was not immediately transferred away was because of the price of the sale. In Yang Zongxiang's view, his daughter is not only smart and clever, but also super cute and lovable, and can be sold for at least 50,000. But the selfish and stingy shop owner was only willing to pay 20,000. In the end, the deal was not concluded, but Yang Zongxiang and the shop owner were arrested for the crime of human trafficking. "Thank you, young man." After instructing his colleagues to temporarily escort Yang Zongxiang and the shop owner to the police car, the police officer in charge of the case thanked Zhang Fengjai with a smile on his face. Because through the brief interrogation just now, he found that the result of this police call was not only to successfully rescue Ceci who was abducted, but also to follow the clues to crack down on a criminal group that had been rooted in the wholesale market for several years and specialized in child trafficking. And this major meritorious performance will definitely make his position a higher level. "Officer, it's fate, no need to thank you." After a polite and indifferent expression, Zhang Fengjai looked up and observed the people around him. After finding that their attention was attracted by Yang Zongxiang and the shop owner who were pressed into the police car, he sent Ceci, who was reluctant to leave, to Li Feiying's arms. Then, he took out a blank talisman paper from his sleeve, cut his finger, and wrote a traditional Chinese character "protect" on the talisman paper. Then, he reached out and pulled off a strand of Ceci's hair, then wrapped it with the talisman paper, folded it into a square piece, and handed it to Li Feiying. "Put this amulet wrapped with Ceci's hair in the sachet, and then find a red string to hang it around her neck." Li Feiying, who had already seen Zhang Fengjai's fairy tricks, took the talisman paper respectfully. "Boss, Ceci's physique is different from that of ordinary people. It is easy to provoke some unclean things, which causes her to get sick frequently. So, in the future, try not to take her to some taboo places, such as cemeteries, mountains, temples, and Taoist temples, etc." "I remember," Li Feiying nodded and agreed quickly. "Girl, may the 3 pure ones protect you for a lifetime, and may the 5 gods protect you for your dreams to come true." Reaching out and touching Ceci's smooth hair, Zhang Fengjai sent his blessings, picked up the shopping bag on the ground, turned around and ran straight to the gate of the wholesale market. "Brother, if Ceci misses you in the future, how can she find you?" Just as Zhang Fengjai was about to leave, Ceci's voice came from behind. "Boss, please write down my phone number." Zhang Fengjai suddenly stopped, but did not turn around to look at Ceci, but said with a slight hesitation, "If Ceci gets into trouble in the future, just call me directly, and I will definitely come to help." After leaving his phone number, Zhang Fengjai, who knew he could not stay any longer, quickened his pace and headed straight for the market gate. "Goodbye." After saying goodbye to Li Feiying and Ceci, Solitsi hurriedly chased after them. Ceci, who was crawling in Li Feiying's arms, looked at the background of Zhang Fengjai's departure, and her eyes showed tenderness that she should not have at her age. Looking at the background of Solitsi's departure, her eyes also showed the viciousness that she should not have at her age. After stuffing the shopping bag with clothes and shoes directly behind the passenger seat, Zhang Fengjai fell directly on the soft seat and gasped for air. "Yezi, what's wrong with you, Seeing Zhang Fenjai's face suddenly pale as paper and panting, Sulitzi asked anxiously. "Sister Litzi, please give me a bottle of water." He took out a talisman paper with a spell drawn on it from his sleeve, and then turned his head to Sulitzi and ordered. "Here." After taking the mineral water handed over by Sulitzi, Zhang Fenjai directly put the talisman paper he had just taken out into his mouth, and then used the mineral water to send it to his stomach. Immediately afterwards, a trace of cold air that was invisible to the naked eye quickly emanated from his body. The time was very short, only 3 or 5 seconds. In the sports car without the air conditioner turned on, the temperature suddenly dropped by more than 10 degrees, which made Sulitzi shiver uncontrollably. Huh! When the temperature in the sports car dropped by about 20 degrees, Zhang Fenjai, whose face had regained its rosy color, could not help but let out a long sigh of relief and opened half of the car door directly to let the cold air in the sports car out quickly to prevent Sulitzi from getting sick from the cold air. "Liz, let's go." After the temperature in the car returned to normal, Zhang Fenjai closed the car door again and ordered Sulitzi. "Yezi, that little girl named Sisi is not an ordinary person." Sulitzi, who had been waiting until she was far away from the Janai wholesale market and gradually slowed down the car, asked with a serious look. "Not only is she not an ordinary person, she is simply a legendary ghost-like existence. Not to mention Sisi, whom he didn't want to provoke anymore, even his third grandfather, whose Taoism had reached the level of heaven and man, would probably stay as far away as possible. If it weren't for the fact that his own physique was mixed with the breath of a special existence, and the breath of the special existence had a special relationship with Sisi, he would have become an ice sculpture that lost its breath of life in the short time he held Sisi just now. The reason why he took the initiative to give the amulet and leave contact information was because there was an indelible cause and effect between them when they hugged each other, which forced him to find a way to protect Sisi, who had not really grown up. Therefore, Zhang Fenjai, who didn't want to talk too much about Sisi's origin, changed the topic to the amulet that could interest Sulitzi. "Sister Litzi, accompany me to buy some jade in a few days. I want to make an amulet for you. How is the effect? Is it better than the amulet given to Sisi?" Although he was a little dissatisfied with Zhang Fenjai's deliberate change of topic, compared with the intention of giving him the amulet, the slight dissatisfaction in his heart had long disappeared without a trace. However, thinking about the amulet he gave to Sisi, which was written with the blood on his finger, Sulitzi, who still felt a little jealous, couldn't help but compare them. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 42. The way of protection is different, and the final effect will be different. Regarding Sulitzi's jealousy with a little girl less than 3 years old, Zhang Fenjai felt quite helpless and could only try his best to reply with an answer that would satisfy her. If we talk about the length of protection, then of course jade that lasts longer will have a better amulet effect. You still have a conscience. After hearing that the amulet Zhang Fenjai planned to make for herself was more effective than the amulet made for Sisi, Sulitzi felt a little sweet in her heart. After giving him a satisfied look, she stepped on the accelerator and headed straight for the Golden Orchid courtyard. However, just as the BMW sports car arrived at the intersection of Qingnian Road and Hongxing Road, a pleasant cell phone ringtone suddenly came from the bag. After using the Bluetooth motor to connect the phone, Sulitzi first joked with the person on the phone, then put away her smile and listened carefully for a while, and finally replied and rushed over immediately. After hanging up the phone, Sulitzi started the sports car and crossed the intersection, then slowly stopped on the side of the road. Then, she turned around and faced Zhang Fenjai and said, "Yizi, last night you said you wanted to find a job that can be based in Ningji City. After careful consideration for a whole night, and then combined with your own characteristics, I finally decided to recommend you to be a personal assistant to the general manager of our Yongsheng group. Bodyguard. Private bodyguard." Zhang Fenjai frowned slightly after hearing the work Sulitzi had arranged for him. First, the working hours of a private bodyguard are unstable, which will disrupt his normal schedule. Secondly, in the work of private bodyguards, it is necessary to use the martial arts taught by the second grandfather, and sometimes the techniques taught by the third grandfather, which is equivalent to touching the wealth in Sank. In this case, he needs to donate at least 99% of his monthly salary. How is this different from using fortune telling for others? Yeezy, I know you don't like the job of a bodyguard, but since you don't even have a primary school diploma, except for dock loading and unloading and construction site brick moving jobs, you can't find any jobs in other industries in a short period of time. Seeing Zhang Fenjai's slightly frowned brow, Solitsi knew that he was dissatisfied with the job of a personal bodyguard. Fortunately, she had already expected it beforehand, so she began to present the facts and persuade rationally. Sister Lizzie, can you change your job as a private bodyguard to a security guard? Looking back on the 2 days I came to Ningji City, I came into contact with the second batch of security guards at Xintang Building and Gaihe Shopping Mall. It seemed that not only did they not need any academic qualifications, but their working hours were very stable. More importantly, if you encounter trouble, retreat if you can, hide if you can, and pretend if you can. In this case, it will not disrupt his normal work and rest time, but also will not affect his normal income. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's idea of becoming a security guard, Solitsi couldn't help but frown. Although bodyguards and security guards both work to protect personal and property safety, the technical content between the two, the status and income gap between the two, and the future development prospects of the two are worlds apart. What's more, asking Zhang Fenjai to be the general manager's personal bodyguard had her own selfish motives. It was very clear that Zhang Fenjai was a person who adhered to principles but had a soft heart, so Solitsi sighed softly and said with a trace of gratitude in her eyes. Yezi, I am a girl with pretty good looks and figure. I am able to prosper in the mixed real estate industry while still maintaining my innocence. Thanks to the selfless care of the general manager and several he came to the rescue regardless of his own safety. Yezi, the general manager's character is a bit like the ancient knights described in novels. While he likes to help others, he often doesn't pay much attention to his own safety. If this continues, I'm worried that she will suffer a loss sooner or later. Having said this, Solitsi held Zhang Fenjai's hand tightly and asked with tenderness in her eyes. Zizi, can you please be the general manager's personal bodyguard for a period of time for my sister's sake? When the time comes, if you find that you really don't like the job of a bodyguard, then I will use all my connections to find a job that you like. Well. Facing Solitsi's request, Zhang Fenjai couldn't help but sigh and nodded in agreement. All right. In fact, just when Solitsi was grateful for the general manager's care, Zhang Fenjai knew that she would eventually ask him, just like asking him to use magic to find Ceci's whereabouts. Unable to mercilessly refuse her request, Zhang Fenjai was very depressed and helpless and decided to accept the bodyguard job. Very good. Seeing that Zhang Fenjai finally agreed to be the general manager's personal bodyguard, Solitsi, who was ecstatic, cheered and couldn't help but kiss him. Although he just kissed his forehead, Zhang Fenjai's face instantly turned as red as a red apple as if he had received an electric shock, and then he almost lowered his head to his pants. If you are very close friends of the opposite sex, it doesn't matter if you kiss them on the forehead or on the cheek when you are happy. Therefore, Solitsi, who didn't feel anything wrong, when she saw Zhang Fenjai who was blushing with shame, immediately guessed that this must be his first time being intimate with a girl. Not only had he never been in a relationship, but he had never even had much contact with girls. Zhang Fenjai's immature performance just now made Solitsi feel like she had found a treasure, and she couldn't help but tease him further. Yezi, it seems that I took advantage of you just now. If you feel disadvantaged, I will let you kiss me, and there is no restriction on any part. Zhang Fenjai, who was already very embarrassed, felt shy after hearing Solitsy's bold teasing, so he stretched out his hand to open the car door and planned to go out to avoid it. Fortunately, Solitsy, who knew that she had gone too far, quickly reached out to hold him, and then apologized with a smile. Yezi, I was wrong, I'm not kidding you anymore. Who? Zhang Fengjai, who barely calmed down his shyness by taking 3 deep breaths in a row, thought of the last sentence Solitsy said when she hung up the phone just now, and asked with his eyes looking forward. Sister Litsy, are you going to take me home first, or are you going to take me to work with you? Yezi, the general manager has a very important banquet tonight, and she needs your escort. I will take you to see her now. After hearing the business, Solitsy quickly dispelled the unbearable images in her mind and drove directly to Xintang Building. However, when there was still an intersection away from Xintang Building, Solitsy temporarily stopped the car in front of a public toilet, and then picked out the white casual clothes and a pair of imitation AJ sneakers she had just bought, and asked him to go to the men's bathroom to exchange them before continuing to drive to Xintang Building. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 43. In front of Xintang Building. Yezi, you can't forget the old relationship, and you are still thinking about Chairman Lin. Looking at Zhang Fengjai standing in front of the automatic revolving door of the building, with a complicated look in his eyes, Solitsy teased with a little taste. In response, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but roll his eyes at her, and then entered the building directly through the automatic revolving door. You, what are you doing here again? Although his Taoist robe was replaced by white casual clothes, his clear eyes and friendly smile left an indelible impression on several security guards of Xintang Building. Therefore, just when Zhang Fengjai walked in front of the turnstile, a security guard who was the least injured yesterday and insisted on being on duty asked with a trembling voice. Brother Li, his name is Zhang Fengjai. He is already a staff member of our Yongsheng group. He will also clock in every day from now on. Knowing the fierce conflict that broke out between Zhang Fengjai and the building security yesterday, Solitsy, who was afraid that the two would cause some unpleasantness, quickly stepped forward to explain and took the initiative to apologize for Zhang Fengjai. Brother Li, I have offended you many times in the past. I hope you, sir, will not take it to heart. Don't dare. 4 punches and 2 kicks severely injured these recently retired soldiers. If they continue to treat Zhang Fengjai, who clocks into work every day, with a hostile attitude, then they will still be able to live a good life in the future. Brother Li is still very generous. Regardless of whether the security guard surnamed Li in front of him really doesn't hold a grudge, or he is too afraid to hold a grudge, as long as they don't cause trouble for Zhang Fengjai in the future. Therefore, after praising the other party's magnanimity, Solitsy quickly led Zhang Fengjai into the building through the turnstile, and then went straight to the elevator on the first floor. Little handsome boy, look here. But at this moment, the 3 beauties at the front desk of the lobby on the first floor suddenly greeted Zhang Fengjai very excitedly. Zhang Fengjai, who was very polite, wanted to go to the front desk to get to know the 3 beauties, but Solitsy's unhappy voice came to his ears. Hurry up and come to the interview with me. In desperation, he could only wave to the 3 beauties at the front desk, and then quicken his pace to keep up with Solitsy. Yezi, after you successfully apply, either follow the general manager out, or stay in my office and don't wander around. After stepping into the elevator, Solitsy told Zhang Fengjai with a straight face. As one of the most high-end boutique office buildings in Ningji City, Xintang Building is full of beauties. If Zhang Fengjai hadn't been obsessed with watching, I'm afraid he would have been captured by those wolf-like women sooner or later. Eaten alive. After successfully arriving at the floor where Yongsheng Group was located, Zhang Fengjai followed Sulitsi to the exquisitely decorated office area. "Hello, Minister Su." The two beauties at the front desk with dignified and pure looks quickly stood up and greeted Sulitsi. The two beauties at the front desk of Yongsheng Group, no matter in terms of appearance, temperament, or the smile that always hangs on their faces, are many times better than Zhang Qian and Du Ying at the front desk of Shilan Group. This also makes Zhang Fengjai I feel quite reassured about the work ahead. Nodding indifferently, Sulitsi took Zhang Fengjai into the office area and went straight to the general manager's office. While following Sulitsi, Zhang Fengjai looked at the entire office area and found that the layout of the office area seemed very reasonable, but in fact it conflicted with the aura of the staff and could easily distract the staff. However, it has not yet been determined whether he can apply for the job successfully, so Zhang Fengjai did not act as a good person to remind Sulitsi. "It's just garbage, go out and redo it for me." Just as he followed Sulitsi to the general manager's office, he heard suppressed angry shouts coming from inside. Immediately afterwards, a tall, stunning-looking beauty in a suit ran out of the office with reddish eye circles. "Careful." As she ran out of the office with her head lowered, she didn't even notice Sulitsi standing in front of the door, which caused the tall beauty to bump directly into Sulitsi. Sulitsi, who was pretending to be thoughtful, had no time to dodge. Seeing that the two people were about to collide violently, Zhang Fengjai hurriedly warned him, and then pulled Sulitsi to one side with his lightning-fast right hand. Immediately afterwards, he held the tall beauty with a hint of pale face in his arms. Although he immediately pushed the tall beauty out of his arms, Sulitsi also received a warning look with dissatisfaction. "Thanks." It looked like they were hugging each other tightly just now, but in fact there was no substantial physical contact at all. This made the tall beauty immediately know that the other party not only did not take advantage of her, but also helped her keep her job. Otherwise, relying on the sisterly relationship between the general manager and Director Su, if the work does not satisfy the chairman, and if Director Su is injured, the result will be to pack up and leave. "You're welcome," Zhang Fengjai, who put on a sincere smile, quickly waved his hand. "Come in." After taking a look at Pan Switting, who had just been recruited into the company and was being pursued by many men, Sulitsi ordered Zhang Fengjai sternly after a strong hostility flashed in her eyes. After shrugging at Pan Switting, Zhang Fengjai entered the general manager's office with a helpless expression, and then the door was slammed shut by Sulitsi. After hearing the sound of the door closing, Pan Switting breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly walked to her office area with the documents in her arms. As for the young man who had just saved her, she didn't have much impression of him in her mind. "Loxi, who made you angry?" "Liz, who made you angry?" Just after the door of the office was closed, Sulitsi and the peerless beauty standing behind the desk asked the same question at the same time. Then, both of them showed happy smiles. "Loxi, let me introduce you." Reaching out and pulling Zhang Fengjai to the desk, Sulitsi introduced him with a slightly proud look. "This handsome, suave, and elegant young man is named Zhang Fengjai, and his Taoist name is Deoxu. He is a legendary extraordinary person and also the personal bodyguard I found for you. Hello, my name is Shen Loxi, I am the general manager of Yongsheng Group and a good sister of Litsi." Although the thin young man in front of him not only has an ordinary appearance, but also does not look like an extraordinary person, but for Litsi Su's sake, Shen Loxi still extended her jade hand and greeted him enthusiastically. "General Manager, hello." After gently touching the other's jade hand, Zhang Fengjai immediately withdrew his hand in return, which made Shen Loxi feel a little dissatisfied. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 44. Regardless of her stunning appearance or devilish figure, she is slightly better than Sulitsi. Being able to obey Sulitsi's instructions obediently, but maintaining a deliberately distant attitude towards herself, made Shen Loxi immediately feel dissatisfied and at the same time, She also directly rejected the idea of hiring him as a personal bodyguard from the bottom of her heart. Of course, she doesn't need to take the initiative to destroy the relationship between sisters. Because there is another character on the scene who is more suitable to play the villain, and that is her personal driver, personal secretary, personal bodyguard, and best friend Wang Denmei. Taking advantage of the opportunity to lower her head to organize documents, Shen Loxi secretly winked at Wang Denmei, who was watering the flowers on the windowsill. If you want to be Sister Luo 11's personal bodyguard, you must first pass the test of Wang Denmei. After slowly putting down the kettle in his hand, the short-haired and capable Wang Denmei turned to Sulitzi and Zhang Fengjai and said, "A head of short hair that reaches the neck, which is refreshing and full of vitality." The tall peach figure with legs from the neck down and the tight-fitting leather jacket and leather pants show a hot figure that is slightly better than Shen Loxi and Sulitzi. Of course, what really caught Zhang Fengjai's attention was her calloused hands and her sharp eyes. Zi, teach this stinky girl a lesson, so that she won't show off her ability to break stone monuments in front of Luo 11 and me. Although Sulitzi had already seen Zhang Fengjai's outstanding skills through the kidnapping case on the intercity bus and the bet at Gaihe shopping mall, she thought of Wang Denmei's power of crushing stone tablets and knocking out 13 kidnappers in one breath. When it comes to skills, it is inevitable that there will be some lack of confidence in my heart. Therefore, she used the excuse of teaching Wang Denmei a lesson to remind Zhang Fengjai what he needed to pay attention to. In response, Shen Loxi, who was dissatisfied, glared at Sulitzi fiercely, warned her not to talk too much, and looked at Wang Denmei with expectation in her eyes. If you are too thin, your attack and defense power will be low. After carefully observing Zhang Fengjai, who looked indifferent, Wang Denmei commented with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. The slightly frivolous bottom line shows that you don't pay attention to the cultivation of basic skills at all. You just rely on your quick reaction speed to win, but Sister Litzi mistakenly thinks that you are an extraordinary martial arts master. After making a self-righteous evaluation, Wang Denmei turned to Sulitzi and ordered, "Sister Li Zi, this person is just a useless person with a silver gun. He is not qualified to be a personal bodyguard for Sister Luo 11. You should take him away as soon as possible." Wang Denmei, Zi is not what you said at all. Not only did he directly deny the work of a private bodyguard, but he also humiliated Zhang Fengjai's personality. Even though they were good sisters and best friends, Sulitzi, whose face suddenly turned gloomy, rebutted and explained for him with a hint of anger. However, before Sulitzi could finish her rebuttal and explanation, she was interrupted by Zhang Fengjai with a faint smile on her face. "Sister Li Zi, whether I, Zhang Fengjai, is a useless person with a silver gun and a wax head, God knows and the earth knows. As long as you know and I know, there is no need to explain to a yellow-haired girl who doesn't know the heights of the world." "Who are you calling a yellow-haired girl?" Wang Denmei, with a cold light in her eyes, asked sternly. "You." In response, Zhang Fengjai looked up and down, gave the answer without concealing the contempt in his eyes, and then turned and walked towards the door of the office. "Sister Lizzie, I'll wait for you in the lobby on the first floor. Apologize, otherwise, you will never leave the office." A contemptuous look and a disdainful tone. Zhang Fengjai's seemingly casual answer just now was simply a humiliation and provocation to the arrogant Wang Denmei. Her long legs, which were at least over 1.2 meters long, allowed her to lightly jump over the coffee table in front of her, and then rushed to Zhang Fengjai in 3 or 2 steps, threatening with clenched fists. In response, Zhang Fengjai walked towards Wang Denmei without stopping at all. "Sister Lizzie, he brought this upon himself. Don't blame me for not being merciful." Zhang Fengjai's indifferent demeanor completely angered Wang Denmei. She decided to teach the ignorant boy in front of her a lesson, but she was worried that if she acted too harshly, she would cause Sulitzi's displeasure and affect her sisterly feelings for each other. Therefore, she gave a special reminder before deciding to take action. Yeezy, there's no need to save face for my sister, teach her a lesson. The deep love between sisters is far less important than letting your man vent his bad words. Therefore, ignoring Wang Denmi's kind reminder, Sulitzi gritted her teeth and ordered Zhang Fenjai. I know, Sister Lizzie. Originally, he just wanted to defeat Wang Denmi without affecting his ability to leave the office, but after hearing Sulitzi's instructions, Zhang Fenjai immediately decided to teach this little girl in front of him a lesson he would never forget. Hateful. The sisterly relationship that lasted nearly 3 years was worse than a man who had just appeared for 2 days. When Wang Denmi was angry at Sulitzi's betrayal of focusing on sex over friends, she also decided to teach Zhang Fenjai an unforgettable lesson. A straight punch commonly used in boxing matches hit him directly on the bridge of the nose at the speed of the wind. After turning his body 60 degrees to the left to avoid the fist show, he quickly raised his right arm and bent it directly, then elbowed Wang Denmi's private part. Shameless person. When Wang Denmi saw that Zhang Fenjai's counterattack was actually in her most important private part, she cursed and quickly stepped back to avoid the touch and damage of the elbow. After a flash of disdainful sneer in her eyes, her bent arm quickly straightened and hit Wang Denmi's abdomen directly. With a muffled hum, she stepped back 5 steps and leaned directly against the wooden door of the office. Wang Denmi, who covered her stomach with her hand, said with a frosty face. Zhang, you forced me to do this. A sharp breath quickly emerged from Wang Denmi's body, and her loosened clenched palms even showed a hint of green. Eagle strikes the sky. Wang Denmi suddenly took a step forward, flew nearly 2 meters into the air, and then turned into a goshawk and pounced on Zhang Fenjai. It turned out to be the goshawk 13 palms of the Wang family in Luoyang City. In fact, when Wang Denmi's palms showed a faint green, Zhang Fenjai vaguely felt a sense of familiarity. Now, after hearing her shout out the name of the first move of the palm technique, he not only knew the opponent's true origin, but also understood the power of the opponent's palm technique. Solid as a rock. After moving his right leg half a step to the right and standing in a standing position, Zhang Fenjai shouted softly and raised his palms to meet Wang Denmi's fists. Bang! Accompanied by a crisp sound, Yu Hairan's raised arms trembled slightly, and Wang Denmi used the rebound force to land in front of the office door again. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 45. Without any pause, after a fierce roar, Wang Denmi spread her arms and soared to a height of more than 3 meters. Her shoulders even touched the roof. Young eagle spreads its wings. The 13 palms of the goshawk is a continuous offensive palm technique, and the power of the palm technique can be continuously superimposed. In other words, the more palm techniques the 13 palms of the goshawk perform, the stronger the power. But the premise is that there must be enough internal force to support the palm technique. With the little internal force that Wang Denmi has cultivated, she can only perform 3 consecutive palm techniques at most. And with the steel bones that she has cultivated since she was a child using medicinal baths, even if she stands still, Wang Denmi can't hurt him at all. However, the 13 palms of the goshawk is a fierce palm technique that is extremely strong and masculine, and it is not suitable for feminine girls to practice. If Wang Denmi was allowed to perform 3 consecutive palm techniques, then without the protection of her internal force, the backlash of the extremely strong and yang palm techniques would break at least half of her meridians and completely reduce her to an ordinary woman who was powerless. For the children of aristocratic families who rely on martial arts, losing their internal force is even more serious than taking their lives. Since his second grandfather had a comradeship with an old senior from the Wang family in Luoyang City, the filial Zhang Fenjai certainly couldn't bear to see this happen. Therefore, he could only forcibly interrupt the power of the palm techniques when Wang Denmi performed the second palm technique of the young eagle spreading its wings. Golden snake entanglement. His right leg suddenly stepped on the ground and flew into the air, and before Wang Denmi's arms closed, he stretched out his hands to hug her waist, and then dragged her down with him. Boom! Although the floor of the office was covered with thick carpet, the impact of the two people falling at the same time still formed a dull roar. "You shameless man, let go quickly." The different heights of each other's jumps resulted in different positions of hugging, which made Zhang Fengjai, who fell to the ground, have his head submerged by the firm double peaks. The private parts that had never been touched by a strange man made Wang Denmei feel numb all over, and the anger that quickly burned in her heart made her face as cold as ice and scolded. Quickly loosening his hands and stepping back 3 steps, Zhang Fengjai used the corner of his eyes to glance at Sulitzi and found that her face was just a little weird, but she was not angry because of the ambiguity of the mistake just now, which also made him secretly relieved. However, Shen Loxi, who was standing next to Sulitzi, complained to her with a sullen face. "Liz, is the person you introduced a private bodyguard or a daring and lustful person?" Faced with Shen Loxi's complaints, Sulitzi also smiled bitterly. After all, Zhang Fengjai's method of dealing with Wang Denmei just now did seem a bit shameless. "Damn shameless person, I will kill you." Wang Denmei rolled up and rushed towards Zhang Fengjai with a strong murderous intent in her eyes. Although she took advantage of the other party when she landed just now, her starting point was completely to save her life with good intentions. "I didn't expect the other party to be so ungrateful and repay kindness with enmity," which immediately aroused Zhang Fengjai's anger. The spiritual power combined with the Qingfeng step performed by the body made him appear in front of Wang Denmei in an instant, and then raised his foot and kicked her directly in the stomach. In a rage, he used his iron-boned body strength for the first time and kicked Wang Denmei away, making her like a kite with a broken string. He smashed the door of the office and fell heavily to the office area, spitting out a mouthful of blood with a fishy smell. The sound of the wooden door being smashed and Wang Denmei falling immediately attracted the attention of dozens of staff members in the office area, and they all turned around to watch. "Denmei! Denmei!" Seeing Wang Denmei, who was kicked nearly 10 meters away, not only fell to the ground and vomited blood, but also turned pale like a piece of white paper, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi rushed out quickly. However, when passing by Zhang Fengjai, Sulitzi secretly gave him a thumbs up. In response, Zhang Fengjai, who was afraid that he would be too heavy-handed and make Sulitzi angry, secretly breathed a sigh of relief, walked to Wang Denmei, and asked calmly, "Wang Denmei, do you hate me so much now that you want to kill me?" "Yes." Even though she was seriously injured and unable to move, the arrogant Wang Denmei nodded and admitted without fear. "Wang Denmei, the reason you hate me is because I just used shameless means to destroy the palm method you were performing, and also took advantage of you." Zhang Fengjai, who was not angry at all because of Wang Denmei's reckless and tough attitude, still asked calmly, "Yes." Thinking of the strange feeling when her private parts were touched just now, Wang Denmei's eyes flashed a trace of panic, and continued to pretend to be tough and admitted, "Wang's surname, Goshawk 13 Strikes, you must be from the Wang family in Luoyang City." Not only did she know the name of the palm method she just performed, but she also knew her true origin. After a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes, Wang Denmei immediately became interested in Zhang Fengjai's origin. Ignoring the puzzled look in Wang Denmei's eyes, Zhang Fengjai continued to ask, "Since you are a child of the Wang family, you should know that the 13 strikes of Goshawk is a palm technique that belongs to the most powerful and powerful Yang. You should know that you can only use 3 palm techniques at most with your internal strength, and you should also understand that you can forcibly use the superposition of 3 moves." After the palm technique, the power of Gang Xiang came back. Although Wang Denmei was extremely shocked by Zhang Fengjai's understanding of the Goshawk 13 High 5 technique, her confidence in her own strength and the Goshawk 13 High 5 technique still made her fight back forcefully. "If you hadn't used shameless means to sneak up on me, I believe that the second palm technique of the young eagle spreading its wings would have defeated you." "Yeah." After Zhang Fengjai asked with a sneer, he bent down to pick up the fragments of the wooden door that were smashed by Wang Denmei, and then put them in the palm of his hand and shook them hard. When he opened his hand again, the fragments of the wooden door had turned into a pile of powder. For ordinary people like Shen Loxi and Sulitzi, they don't understand the true meaning of the wooden door fragments turning into powder, but for Wang Denmei, who was born in a noble family, it is too clear. Because this means that Zhang Fenjai's internal strength has advanced to the realm of great achievement, and has the strength of the older generation of top experts in major families. It is simply not comparable to her, a little girl who has just started to gain internal strength. Wang Denmei suddenly felt ashamed and lowered her head when she thought that she could defeat Zhang Feng's powerful opponent with his strong rebuttal of the second move of Young Eagle spreading wings. Thinking of his reckless and impulsive character, when the second palm technique of spreading the wings of the Young Eagle fails to win, he will definitely use the superimposed third palm technique. Then, while she was unable to defeat Zhang Fenjai, Zhigang Xiang's palm skills backfired, causing her veins to break and become an ordinary person. The fear and joy that emerged in her heart made her look at Zhang Fenjai with infinite gratitude in her eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 46. Seeing the grateful look in Wang Denmei's eyes, Zhang Fenjai knew that she had realized her mistake and completely changed her image as a shameless person. The anger and unhappiness in her heart towards her completely disappeared. No trace. Considering the comradeship between the second grandfather and an elder of the Wang family, and the sisterly relationship between Wang Denmei and Sulitzi, Zhang Fenjai bent down and squatted in front of Wang Denmei. Then, he took out 5 silver needles that exuded a cold light from his sleeves. Because the kick he just used, his physical strength not only directly dispersed the internal strength she had finally cultivated, but also caused slight damage to the internal organs and meridians, so he planned to use the acupuncture techniques taught by his uncle to make the other party heal in a short time. Complete recovery. In this case, it will not affect her sisterly relationship with Sulitzi, and she will not be complained by her eccentric second grandfather in the future. Taking a deep breath and waiting until his emotions calmed down completely, he used dazzling techniques to insert into Wang Denmei's Beihui, Zhonyuan, Quanyuan, Yongquan and Danshan acupuncture points. Suangi 13 needles. The dazzling technique immediately gave Wang Denmei a very familiar feeling, as if she had seen this kind of silver needle technique somewhere. When the silver needle pierced the lily point, which can awaken the brain and awaken the mind, a flash of light suddenly flashed in her mind, and she finally remembered the origin of the silver needles technique. It was hanging on the wall in front of her grandfather's bookstore, a portrait of a kind old man with white hair holding a silver needle in his hand. Although the portrait was not made by a famous master, it was regarded as a family heirloom by my grandfather and family. Because if you look at it from different positions, the hand gestures of the kind old man holding the needle in the portrait will change. The changes in the kindly old man's needle holding hand are exactly the first 5 of the legendary Suangi's 13 needles. Yes, it is Suangi 13 needles. Wang Denmei was able to recognize the Suangi 13 needles that had been lost for hundreds of years at a glance, which slightly surprised Zhang Fenjai. However, since he dared to use the Suangi 13 needles in front of her, he didn't care about the risk of being exposed, so he nodded and admitted without any concealment. I wonder what your relationship is with the 2 seniors from Shushan, Medical Heart, and Butcher. After getting Zhang Fenjai's personal recognition, Wang Denmei immediately remembered that his grandfather, who had advanced to the realm of great achievements in internal energy, had once mentioned in a brief drunken gaffe that the 2 of them had saved his life and had helped to rebuild the Wang family. A person of grace. One is a peerless master butcher who has had a 10-year friendship with his grandfather. One is a medical mind with the medical skills to bring people back to life. Back then, My grandfather suffered a sneak attack from his opponent, which caused Zhigang Xiang's internal energy to backfire, causing his life to be in danger. It was the senior butcher who had 10 years of comradeship who appeared in time, and then powerfully killed 9 top masters of the realm of internal energy. After the master, he immediately invited a doctor who had the medical skills to bring the dead back to life. Senior Yi Xian used the Suangi 13 needles, which had been lost for hundreds of years, to not only rescue his grandfather from death, but also completely eliminate the damage caused by the backlash of internal force to his meridians, allowing his grandfather to continue to have the power of a top expert. Strength. The doctor's heart is my eldest grandfather, and the butcher is my second grandfather. After reaching out and pulling out the 5 silver needles inserted into the acupuncture points, Zhang Fengjai replied with a happy smile on his face. Whether it was the senior butcher who powerfully killed 9 top masters, or the senior healer who used the 13 needles of the mysterious ghost to save his grandfather, they all had a debt of gratitude to the Wang family that was difficult to repay. So, as a direct descendant of the family, not only did she not repay the kindness of her savior, but she also deliberately made things difficult for her benefactor's grandson. This made Wang Denmei feel deeply ashamed and remorseful. At the same time, she quickly struggled to get up, and then knelt down. He kneeled down and apologized. Denmei, I didn't know that you are the descendant of 2 seniors, Yuxin and Butcher, and that's why you did this ungrateful and rebellious thing. I hope you can forgive Denmei for the rash and impulsive behavior just now for the sake of my grandfather and senior Butcher's comradeship. Guilt. In fact, as early as when Wang Denmei showed gratitude in her eyes, Zhang Fengjai had already forgiven her for the difficult confrontation just now. Now, she knows the connection between the eldest grandfather and the second grandfather and the Wang family, so it is impossible to really blame each other. Therefore, after reaching out to lift up Wang Denmei who was kneeling on her knees, Zhang Fengjai smiled and comforted her. Wang Denmei, I, Zhang Fengjai, am not a petty person. At the same time, you have already accepted the punishment for reckless impulsiveness, so you don't need to keep what happened just now in mind. Then, he directly let go of Wang Denmei's arms and reminded him solemnly. The 13 strikes of the goshawk possesses the most powerful and yang power. Even the yang men of your Wang family dare not practice it easily, let alone you who have a feminine body. If you don't want to bear the backlash of the power of Zhigang Xiang in the future, if you want to advance to the realm of internal strength in the future, or even hit the innate realm of rejuvenation, then it's best to give up the 13 strikes of the goshawk immediately, and then switch to cultivating feminine techniques that are suitable for women's physiques. After leaving behind words that were more of a warning than a reminder, Zhang Fengjai turned around and left the office area, and reminded Solitsi. Sister Lizzie, I'll wait for you at the front desk in the lobby on the 1st floor. Looking at Zhang Fengjai's departure, Wang Denmei's eyes showed complex expressions of self-blame, admiration, worship, envy and hesitation. But in the end, all the complicated expressions were replaced by determination, and she quickly turned around and said to Shen Loxi, who was full of surprise. Sister Loxi, no matter how high the salary is, no matter what the price is, you must let Zhang Fengjai be your personal bodyguard. At this point, Wang Denmei whispered in Shen Loxi's ear. If Zhang Fengjai can become your personal bodyguard and win his favor, then he can not only ensure your safety, but also solve the hidden dangers in your body. It is even possible to change the chairman's mind and let you have the power to decide your own happiness. Denmei, are you sure? If it is said that there is the strength to ensure her own safety and the means to solve the hidden dangers in the body, Shen Loxi reluctantly believes it based on Zhang Fengjai's good performance just now. But she doesn't believe that she can change her father's stubborn ideas and decisions and let herself have the power to decide her happiness. At the same time, the unpleasantness of the first meeting and the shameless means that Zhang Fengjai used to deal with Wang Denmei just now also made her dislike this person from the bottom of her heart, so she didn't want to hire him as her personal bodyguard. Sister Loxi, don't you still believe in my judgment? Wang Denmi I couldn't explain the secrets of Zhang Fenjai and Shushan to Shen Loxi in detail, so she could only hope that she could trust her character. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 47. The sisterly relationship of nearly 3 years of living together day and night, and the grace of saving people from danger at many critical moments, made it difficult for her to directly refuse Wang Denmi's request. However, her inner disgust for Zhang Fenjai made it difficult for her to accept facing someone she hated every day. Therefore, facing Wang Denmi's solemn request, Shen Loxi didn't know how to respond for a while. However, when she accidentally saw Panswitting sitting in the corner of the office area, and thought of her work ability that was completely inconsistent with her academic qualifications, a plan that could both agree to Wang Denmi's request and not have to face Zhang Fenjai every day came to her mind. Then, she pretended to be very embarrassed, and nodded reluctantly. Okay. For the sake of you and Litzi, I promise to give him a chance to perform. Sister Loxi, thank you. Although Shen Loxi agreed reluctantly, Wang Denmi believed that Zhang Fenjai, who came from Rat Mountain, definitely had the ability to change her opinion in a short time. And Sulitzi, who wanted to keep Zhang Fenjai by her side and teach him strictly, also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Sister Litzi, let's go find Zhang Fenjai and tell him the good news. Excited, Wang Denmi immediately thought of getting the job of private bodyguard to Zhang Fenjai as soon as possible. Okay. Also worried that Shen Loxi, who was fickle in character, would suddenly change her mind, Sulitzi quickly nodded in agreement and took Wang Denmi to the elevator entrance excitedly. Panswitting, take the development plan you just made to my office. After Sulitzi and Wang Denmi entered the elevator, Shen Loxi, with a sly look in her eyes, looked up and ordered Panswitting, who was working hard in front of the computer. Yes, General Manager. Panswitting, who suddenly felt nervous, quickly picked up the documents that had just been thrown into the trash can, carefully sorted them out, and walked into the office with a slightly pale face. After leaving the office area of Yongsheng Group and stepping into the descending elevator, Zhang Fenjai couldn't help but frown. After the fierce conflict with Wang Denmi just now, the job of private bodyguard is definitely out of the question. Then, he will reconsider the issue of work next. At the same time, on the way back to Xintang Building to the office area of Yongsheng Group, Sulitzi's overly domineering and restraining approach also made Zhang Fenjai realize her real intention of asking him to apply for Shen Loxi's personal bodyguard. Although he knew that Sulitzi's starting point was for his own good, he didn't like this domineering and restraining approach in his heart. So, he wanted to find a job that could protect Sulitzi's safety at any time without being controlled by her all the time. After thinking about it, the security guard of Xintang Building should be a job that can meet these two requirements at the same time. However, what makes Zhang Fenjai feel more embarrassed is that he just had a fierce conflict with the security guard of Xintang Building yesterday because of Lin Chalan. If he rashly goes to apply for the job today, will he be rejected and made things difficult by the other party? Ding dong. Just when Zhang Fenjai was hesitating whether to apply for the job of building security, the sound of the elevator stopping suddenly came to his ears. When the elevator door slowly opened and he saw Lin Chalan standing in front of the elevator, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with a depressed look. But what happened next not only made him feel more depressed, but also a surge of angry murderous intent in his heart. Because the young man standing behind Lin Chalan, who was about 28 or 29 years old, elegant, handsome, and well-dressed, walked into the elevator with his arms around her waist with a happy smile on his face. As the saying goes, a man's head and a woman's waist cannot be touched by a lover. From the fact that Lin Chalan did not resist or get nervous at all, the two of them were not only in a relationship, but they must have been in love for a long time. And the young man's next move further proved his previous guess. Dear, what are we going to eat tonight? Perhaps men like to show off their most proud things in front of others. When he saw Zhang Fengjai in the elevator, he not only hugged Lin Chalan more tightly, but also used more disgusting love words to express their close relationship. Different from Bai Jinjiao's emotional betrayal. When they parted at the Taoist temple on the top of Rat Mountain, he and Bai Jinjiao did not reveal their feelings to each other, so they could not form a de facto love relationship. To be more precise, he fell in love with Bai Jinjiao unilaterally. So, when he saw that Bai Jinjiao had someone in her heart, he just felt sad and upset, but not angry at all. But Lin Chalan was different. Because she had a love affair with someone else under the premise that they had an elder marriage contract, which was called cheating in ancient times. If the three grandfathers who had been exposed to Confucianism since childhood knew about it, especially the bloodthirsty second grandfather, he believed that dozens of people in the Lin family would definitely be stared to death on the stone pillar symbolizing shame overnight. Although he would not be as bloodthirsty and cruel as the second grandfather, Zhang Fengjai would definitely not be indifferent to Lin Chalan's cheating during the marriage contract and the young man who dared to show off in front of him. He pretended to be disgusted and walked to the corner of the elevator. Then, using his body to cover his face, he quietly took out a talisman from his sleeve with his right hand. Then, he placed his right hand behind his back, and then used his spiritual power to light the spell while silently reciting Lin Chalan's birth date in his heart. When he finished reciting Lin Chalan's birth date, the flame burning the spell in his right hand behind his back turned into a 1-inch long and thin little fire snake. However, considering the reflection of the elevator, he temporarily did not let the fire snake get close to Lin Chalan, but let the fire snake hide in his sleeves. When the elevator reached the first floor, the young man holding Lin Chalan and walking out of the elevator, the little fire snake quickly jumped out of his sleeve and went directly into Lin Chalan's body along the collar. The cursed talisman will bring fatal danger to those who approach the cursed. Looking at the young man holding Lin Chalan and walking towards the automatic revolving door, Zhang Fengjai whispered to himself. Whether you live or die next depends on your own luck and fortune. After taking a deep breath, Zhang Fengjai walked to the front desk of the lobby on the first floor, intending to ask about the security situation of Xintang building through the three beautiful front desk ladies to see if there is any hope of successful application. Handsome boy, come here. Seeing Zhang Fengjai approaching, the three receptionists who were gossiping about Lin Chalan and the young man immediately greeted him excitedly. Ever since he was old enough to understand, it seemed that he had basically been insulated from the word handsome guy, so after hearing the three receptionists address him, he immediately felt a little embarrassed and scratched his scalp. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 48. Clear eyes, simple smile, little head-scratching movements. At this moment, Zhang Fengjai was like a little boy who was inexperienced in the world. When he brought a spiritual impact to the three beauties at the front desk, their maternal love suddenly overflowed. Little handsome boy, we lack everything in Xintang building, except for all kinds of beauties. How about my sister find one for you? Among the three beauties at the front desk, one looked to be about 23 or 24 years old, with outstanding appearance, skin as smooth as snow, and eyes as bright as stars. She took the initiative and enthusiastically became a matchmaker. Little handsome boy, if you don't mind your sister's age, how about I, Wu Zhenjun, be your girlfriend? The other one was slightly petite, with a pure appearance. She looked to be only 18 or 19 years old, but she had a pair of tall peaks. She took the initiative to recommend herself. Of course, if you don't like childlike Lolita like Zhenjun, how about a mature and sexy lady like my sister? Another beauty who looked to be about 21 or 12 years old, with a tall figure and a cool temperament, also took the initiative to recommend herself. I just wanted to get some inside information on the security of Xintang building and see if there were any opportunities to apply for security, but with the interference of three beauties at the front desk, it turned into a face-to-face blind date. This made Zhang Fengjai feel baffled, and at the same time, there was a wry expression on his face. Three beautiful sisters, I am still young and don't want to think about emotional matters for the time being, so thank you for your enthusiasm and compliments. Not to mention that he himself had no feelings for the three beauties at the front desk. Even if he had feelings, Solitsi behind him would definitely not agree, so Zhang Fengjai could only reject the other party's kindness. As the saying goes, marriage has been destined since ancient times, and nothing can be achieved by forcing it. Faced with Zhang Fengjai's rejection, the beauty who had just taken the initiative to act as a matchmaker persuaded with a hint of pity in her eyes. Little handsome boy, there are some things that should be yours, so no one can take them away. If they are not yours, even forcing them is useless. Zhang Fengjai, who frowned slightly, looked at the three overly enthusiastic beauties in front of him with a look of doubt in his eyes. Because the words of wisdom that the other party just expressed comfort were used to comfort those who were in bad luck or suffered disasters when he used to tell people's fortunes. How come they were inexplicably used on him today? However, when he saw Wu Zhenjun, a childlike Lolita, and a sexy lady, looking outside the building from time to time, and from the reflection in their pupils, he saw Lin Chalan and the handsome young man they were paying attention to, he immediately knew the reason why they just acted as matchmakers and recommended themselves. In this regard, Zhang Fengjai not only felt quite depressed and helpless, but also felt more moved in his heart. After all, how could he not be touched by how he could take the initiative to comfort himself who seemed to be abandoned when he was a stranger to each other? Three beautiful sisters, you don't have to worry. I have no feelings for Lin at all, and I won't feel sad because of her indiscretions in her private life. Really, the beautiful woman who took the initiative to act as a matchmaker asked in disbelief. Beautiful sister, do you think I am the kind of person who can joke casually? Zhang Fengjai shrugged and asked with a helpless expression. That's good. Although he didn't believe that Zhang Fengjai could easily forget a top-notch biphume like Lin Chalan, he had already taken the initiative to express that he was not sad and was not embarrassed, so they, who were not even friends for the time being, had no right to continue to comfort them. Then, the beautiful woman who took the initiative to play matchmaker suddenly thought of the amazing skills Zhang Fengjai showed yesterday when he had a conflict with the building security guard. She immediately wanted to find out where he learned it and if he could take the opportunity to learn a few tricks from them. When Tongyan Luo Li Wu Zhenjun suddenly pointed her hand in front of her eyes and said with wide eyes, "Look." After hearing Wu Zhenjian's reminder, Zhang Fengjai quickly turned around and saw a minivan on the road, rushing towards Xintang building like crazy. At the same time, according to the direction in which the minivan hit, it should have gone straight to the handsome young man and Lin Chalan who were standing in front of the silver Bentley sports car. The revenge of the curse takes effect so quickly. Whether it is a green belt nearly 2 meters wide or a road paved with cobblestones, it can effectively slow down the collision speed of a small truck and give the truck driver sufficient time to react and adjust. But what's the truth? The speed is getting faster and faster, and the madness is heading straight towards the handsome young man and Lin Chalan. Apart from the mysterious curse, no power can make it this far. I didn't expect their grandpa's spell skills to be so powerful. It seems I still need to keep working hard. When he thought that the curse talisman he made would at most make the cursed person diarrhea and sick, and it was impossible to have such a powerful power, Zhang Fengjai immediately corrected his attitude towards learning. Young Master Chen, hurry up and get away with Chairman Lin. Looking at the handsome young man and Lin Chalan standing in front of the sports car, the tall and beautiful royal sister couldn't help but remind her loudly. Although the distance was a bit far, the high-pitched and harsh sound still reached the ears of young Master Chen and Lin Chalan smoothly. However, the minivan was less than 10 meters away from them at this time. If he took Lin Chalan to escape with him, he would not be able to safely avoid the collision of the minivan, so Master Chen quickly hid to the left without any hesitation. As for Lin Chalan standing in front of the sports car, she had been completely abandoned from his mind. Damn you stinky man! Unfeeling and heartless man! Shameless and despicable bastard. Seeing that young Master Chen had the opportunity to dodge with Lin Chalan, but was very selfish and dodged alone, the three beauties at the front desk couldn't help but curse with gnashing teeth. Poor and pathetic. You deserve it. Wang Danmei and Sulitzi, who also rushed to the first floor, expressed their opinions when they saw the changes in the front yard of the building. Wang Danmei felt sorry for Lin Chalan's bad luck, while Sulitzi mocked her for being blind. Because Sulitzi firmly believed that if she and Zhang Fengjai encountered such a situation, Zhang Fengjai's first reaction would definitely be to save her first, rather than running away alone. Lin Chalan, who faced the threat of death for the first time, looked at the fast-moving minivan, and her eyes showed anger, sadness, ridicule, and relief for her lover abandoning her at the critical moment, as well as fear of death. However, when the minivan was less than 3 meters away from Lin Chalan, the truck driver, who was desperately braking, suddenly turned the steering wheel in a panic. In the end, when the front of the truck was less than 1 meter away from her, it successfully turned the front of the truck, which not only made Lin Chalan express the joy of surviving the disaster, but also made everyone in the hall breathe a sigh of relief. But what happened next made everyone in the hall feel incredible, and at the same time, they sincerely believed in the fatalism that good people will be rewarded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 49. Perhaps it was because the truck driver did not turn around in order to avoid Lin Chalan in front of him, but let the truck rush directly towards the glass window of the lobby of Xintang building. Young Master Chen, who also believed that he was absolutely safe, happened to hold one hand on the glass window and gasp for air in order to calm down the panic and fear caused by the collision of the minivan just now. However, when he saw the incredible looks of everyone in the hall through the transparent glass, when he saw the minivan rushing towards him through the reflection of the glass, he quickly turned around to avoid it, but was hit hard by the minivan. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of the glass being smashed, young Master Chen was like a kite with its string broken, like a water spray pipe that was out of control. Blood sprayed from his mouth and he fell heavily to the hard marble floor of the hall, and then his body he straightened up, tilted his head, and completely lost his breath. Quick, call 120 for ambulance. Hearing the sound of shattering glass in the lobby, Security Captain Li Daywan hurriedly walked out of the security room. When he saw Mr. Chen lying in the lobby of the building, his expression changed. Immediately afterwards, while shouting loudly at the security guard on duty in the hall, he quickly rushed towards Master Chen and prayed softly. The great merciful and great compassionate Guanxian Bodhisattva, the omnipotent Tathagata Buddha, please protect Mr. Chen Yuanqiang and Mr. Chen and never let anything happen to him. Otherwise, we all will lose our hard-earned jobs. After hearing Li Daywan's reminder, not only did the security guard on duty in the lobby quickly dial the ambulance and police calls, but even the three beauties at the front desk and 2 young men in suits rushed to Chen Yuanqiang. This really made Zhang Fengjai feel uncomfortable with Chen Yuanqiang. I am very interested in the origin of the eldest young master. Just in time, the arrival of Wang Danmei and Sulitzi made him unable to help but ask. Sister Li Zi, who is this person named Chen? Although Zhang Fengjai's expression and tone of questioning were very calm, Sulitzi felt a sense of gloating at his misfortune, which made her couldn't help but roll her eyes and introduce the origins of young Master Chen in detail. Although Ningji City is only a third-tier city, there are 2 national-level and 5 provincial-level tourist resorts among the 11 counties and cities under its jurisdiction. This has led to the development of Ningji City's tourism, hotel, and real estate industries. Very prosperous. Yongsheng Group, Torch Group, and Zhuolong Group are the 3 giants in Ningji City's tourism, hotel and real estate industries. The three groups control almost two-thirds of the real estate, hotel, and tourism industries in Ningji City and its 11 subordinate counties. Young Master Chen is named Chen Yuanqiang. He is the only son of the chairman of the Kowloon Group and the sole heir who has gradually taken over the group's industry. Chen Yuanqiang's unexpected death will not only shock the Kowloon Group, but will also have a certain impact on the economy of the entire Ningji City, and may even affect certain public security conditions. After all, real estate development will definitely involve close cooperation with certain chambers of commerce, and there will be great win-win benefits between them. After hearing Sulizi's introduction to Chen Yuanqiang, Zhang Fengjai finally understood why the security guards in the hall and the three beauties at the front desk were so nervous. At the same time, he also understood why Lin Qilan wanted to break off the engagement with him at the cost of millions of dollars. I'm afraid she has already regarded herself as the daughter-in-law of the Chen family. Zhang Fengjai even suspected that Lin Dayuan, known as the Old Fox, had not only known about Lin Qilan's relationship with Chen Yuanqiang for a long time, but also secretly contributed to it. After all, the Chen family's power and financial support are far greater than that of the Shushan Zhang family, who ignored the secular world too early. Master Zhang, the Suangi 13 Needles, also known as the King of Hell Needles, are one of the few magical techniques that can bring the dead back to life. Just when Sulizi finished introducing the origin of Chen Yuanqiang, Wang Denmei suddenly thought of the Kowloon Group's ability to develop the tourism industry and the mysterious scenery of Rat Mountain, and quickly reminded her in a low voice. If you can use the Suangi 13 Needles to rescue Chen Yuanqiang from the gate of hell, it will have unimaginable benefits for you and your hometown, Shushan. Zhang Fengjai was a little surprised by Wang Denmei's concern for herself and Shushan, and at the same time, she also felt a slight affection for her in her heart. However, good feelings were good feelings, but he could not agree to the suggestion of treating Chen Yuanqiang. Because the reason why Chen Yuanqiang was hit and killed by cars in sudden accidents one after another was because of the cursed snake he cast on Lin Qilan. If he rescued Chen Yuanqiang, it would be a waste of the cursed talisman he finally stole from the third grandfather, and it would be equivalent to a slap in the face. What's more, Chen Yuanqiang's death involves the power of the curse. He must first use spiritual power to remove the remaining power of the curse, and then use the 13 Suangi needles to bring him back to life. How could he possibly do such a troublesome thing that consumes his spiritual energy? Not interested. After giving the reply of refusing to rescue Chen Yuanqiang, Zhang Fengjai ordered Sulizi. Sister Lizzie, let's go. What are you doing? Sulizi asked in confusion. Either go home or continue to look for a job, Zhang Fengjai replied in a rather depressed tone. Originally, he wanted to learn about the security situation of Xintang building through the three beauties at the front desk and see if he could apply for a security guard job. But through Sulizi's introduction just now, he knew that Chen Yuanqiang's death would bring a fatal impact to the property of the entire Xintang building, and it would be impossible to continue recruiting people in a short period of time. No need to look for a job, because the general manager has agreed that you can be her personal bodyguard. Denmei and I came here to discuss the salary and the procedures for joining the company with you. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's reply, Sulizi, who knew that he was thinking too much, said with a smile. She agreed. The shameless means in the process of attacking, injuring Wang Denmei, who was like a sister to her, and destroying the precious office wooden door. Before he had done so many excessive things, Shen Loxi still agreed to be her bodyguard, which made Zhang Fengjai feel puzzled, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. That's right. Sulizi nodded to confirm and said with a wink. And, salary, benefits, and work requirements, you can mention them at will. After seeing Sulizi's wink, Zhang Fengjai was immediately moved. Under the premise of donating 99% of his salary, unless the other party agrees to a monthly salary of hundreds of thousands or millions, otherwise, the tens or hundreds of dollars after the commission will not be attractive to him. However, if he can negotiate the specific working hours and it does not affect his meditation practice at dawn every day, the work of a private bodyguard is more interesting than that of a security guard. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan-Yun Yu-Chi. Chapter 50. No problem. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's request to go to work at 9:30 in the morning and to be able to work all the time in the afternoon and evening, Wang Denmei immediately agreed on behalf of Shen Loxi. First of all, as a direct descendant of an aristocratic family, Wang Denmei knows that the dawn of every day is the time when the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is fully revived, and it is also the golden time for martial arts practitioners to meditate and practice. For top masters like Zhang Fenjai, who have achieved great internal strength, meditating at dawn is an indispensable part of their training. Secondly, Shen Loxi suffers from a special hidden disease, which makes her particularly sleepy. She usually doesn't go to work until around 10 o'clock, and their working hours do not conflict much. Since the time will not affect my meditation practice, there is no objection to the work of a private bodyguard. Therefore, while Zhang Fenjai nodded in agreement, he also asked Sulitzi, who was familiar with his situation, to help with the entry procedures. Yizi, don't forget the salary. Seeing that Zhang Fenjai didn't mention the issue of salary at all, Sulitzi, who was thinking about him wholeheartedly, couldn't help but remind him. Just give it to me, Zhang Fenjai replied casually. Because no matter how high the salary offered by the other party, the money in his hands will always shrink by 99%, so he is not looking forward to the amount of salary. But Wang Denmei, who was responsible for recruiting him, had a problem. Because according to the salary of private bodyguards in Ningji City, the monthly salary of retired Special Forces private bodyguards is generally between 8,000 and 15,000. For masters who have just entered the realm of internal strength, their monthly salary is generally between 20,000 and 50,000. And top masters like Zhang Fenjai, whose internal strength has advanced to the realm of great achievements, are usually China's top richest men, or are the personal bodyguards of the ministers in the border areas. The general starting price for a private bodyguard like this is at least 300,000 yuan a month, or 500,000 yuan a month, and there is no upper limit. What's more, Zhang Fenjai is not only a top master in the realm of internal strength, but also has medical skills that can bring people back to life. His monthly salary of 1 million is a bit small. However, a monthly salary of 1 million seems a bit too wasteful for Yongsheng Group and Shen Loxi's status. Even if Wang Denmei nodded in agreement, Shen Loxi and the chairman would definitely deny it directly. Therefore, Wang Denmei had no idea what price to give, which would satisfy Zhang Fenjai himself and be acceptable to Shen Loxi and the chairman. Wang Denmei, who had been unable to finally determine the monthly salary price for a long time, could only turn to Sulitzi for help. After all, as the head of the group sales department and the only person who has a close relationship with Zhang Fenjai, she must know what kind of price can satisfy and accept both parties. 20,000 a month. Sulitzi, who did not understand the market price of bodyguards, finally gave a price that made even Wang Denmei feel unworthy for Zhang Fenjai based on the overall income of the group's senior management and the personalities of Shen Loxi and the chairman. But what Wang Denmei couldn't accept was that, faced with such a low price, Zhang Fenjai nodded in agreement without even frowning. I have no objection, Zhang Fenjai nodded casually and agreed. Denmei, do you have any objection? Sulitzi, who was worried that her price was too high, looked at Wang Denmei slightly nervously. Okay, just follow the price set by Sister Litzi. Even Zhang Fenjai, the person involved, can accept such a low price, so of course Wang Denmei cannot have any objection. Yizi, let's go. Sister will take you to go through the employment procedures now. After getting Wang Denmei's consent, Sulitzi, who was very happy, immediately took Zhang Fenjai's hand and went straight to the elevator entrance. But just as they passed the screen in the middle of the hall, Lin Chalan, who was walking quickly, suddenly stood in front of Zhang Fengjai, and then bent down to thank her with a complicated expression. Zhang Fengjai, thank you for your life-saving grace. The murder scene of Duying in Miaoying village allowed Lin Qilan to truly see Zhang Fengjai's mysterious methods. She has a good understanding of the driving conditions of different vehicles and knows that even a truly top racing driver cannot make such a perfect U-turn in an unexpected situation within a distance of less than 3 meters. Therefore, she believed that Zhang Fengjai, who had mysterious means and was still obsessed with her, saved her life at the most critical moment. In fact, not only Lin Qilan, but also Sulitzi, who knew Zhang Fengjai's abilities better, had the same idea in her heart. However, she suppressed this thought deeply in her heart and neither showed it clearly nor questioned Zhang Fengjai face to face. Lin Qilan, you overestimate your own charm, and you underestimate my Zhang Fengjai's big heart. The look of gratitude in Lin Qilan's eyes, the flash of arrogance between her eyebrows, and the simple recognition of her face also allowed Zhang Fengjai to guess the reason for her special thanks. Change the direction of the minivan's collision at the critical moment and save her from crisis. This made Zhang Fengjai feel a bit bitter. At the same time, he also found Lin Qilan's overconfident idea ridiculous and couldn't help but sneer at her. Lin Qilan, don't say that I, Zhang Fengjai, don't have the ability to forcibly change the direction of the car. Even if I could, I would not save a vicious woman with a heart of snakes and scorpions. A woman who is clearly engaged, but Hong Xin shows up. The shameless woman of the wall. You. Zhang Fengjai's ruthless sarcasm was completely beyond Lin Qilan's expectations. She was caught off guard and didn't know what to refute. At the same time, she still maintained her innocence and didn't think that falling in love with another man was a shameless woman. So, this immediately ignited the flames of anger in her eyes. Lin Qilan, tell your grandfather Lin Deyuan a message for me. Seeing the anger in Lin Qilan's eyes, knowing that she still didn't realize her mistake, Zhang Fengjai, who didn't want to waste words with her, said indifferently. Just say that on the day of the beginning of autumn, at 3:30 in the afternoon, bring 30 million in cash to see me here. Why, Lin Qilan, whose face returned to freezing, questioned with contempt in her eyes. Come if you want to listen, don't come if you don't want to listen. Anyway, the final choice is in the hands of your grandfather Lin Deyuan. Without responding to Lin Qilan's contemptuous questioning, Zhang Fengjai expressed his attitude and walked towards the elevator entrance. After Sulitzi and Wang Danmei glanced at Lin Qilan, they hurriedly chased after her with a hint of doubt in their eyes. Looking at the background of Zhang Fengjai's departure, the contemptuous look in Lin Qilan's eyes was gradually replaced by solemnity. Because she suddenly remembered that when she was walking with her grandfather last night, her grandfather had silently stared at the east of Ningji city for a long time. And Shusan, where Zhang Fengjai was born, happened to be in the east of Ningji city. Thinking of this, Lin Qilan immediately turned around and planned to leave the hall. But at this time, a group of people with extraordinary momentum came out of the automatic revolving door. Especially the middle-aged man surrounded by several black-clad bodyguards, who was even more domineering with a decisive killing aura.